High up in the rugged, whispering pine forests of Cyprus, there's a mystery. It's a crumbling, largely forgotten sanctuary that has silently watched empires rise and fall for over a millennium. Welcome to this explainer. Today we're piecing together the majestic, somewhat melancholic history of an architectural marvel that is currently teetering on the very brink of existence.
Okay, let's dive into this. Our source material today opens with a really powerful, kind of haunting statement. The first thing you should know about the Armenian monastery of Sourp Magar is that it exists. Now, that sounds totally obvious, right? But if you were to look at local maps in northern Cyprus today, you might easily think otherwise. It's essentially a hidden 1,000-year-old treasure, a once sacred pilgrimage site just waiting to be rediscovered before it's completely lost to time. When you picture this site today, nestled deep in the Plataneotissa forest at an altitude of about 530 meters in the Beshparmak or Pentadaktylos mountain range, you're faced with these desolate, totally overgrown ruins. Honestly, walking those unstable stone paths is a haunting experience. Weeds are choking out the cloisters, and ancient keystones are literally hovering on the verge of collapse. But to really grasp the tragedy of these ruins, we have to meticulously dig back into where they came from.
Part 1. Origins, the Coptic era.
So the complex is officially known as Sourp Magar, or Magaravank, and scholars actually believe it wasn't founded by Armenians, but rather established around the year 1000 AD by the Coptic Orthodox Christian community from Egypt. It was dedicated to Saint Macarius of Alexandria. He was a 4th century ascetic hermit who, according to local legend, actually sought refuge in the caves of this exact mountain. And you can see why. This secluded geographic location up in the thick forests was absolutely perfect for a strict, ascetic, monastic life, completely removed from all the distractions of the world down below.
Part 2. The Armenian transition.
Let's move to and see how this builds across the centuries, because this isolated mountain retreat eventually underwent a monumental shift. Following its Coptic origins, the island of Cyprus came under the rule of the Frankish Lusignan dynasty in 1192. That established some really close ties with the Armenian kingdom of Cilicia. Because of those deep political and commercial relationships, the Armenian presence on the island naturally grew, and by the year 1425, possession of the monastery was officially transferred over to the Armenian Apostolic Church. They would go on to care for it through the Venetian period and well into the Ottoman era, which kicked off in 1571.
What's genuinely fascinating here is how the monastery survived and adapted during this time. Under Ottoman rule, the sanctuary's autonomy and its vast lands were actually protected through official imperial decrees, known as firmans. These decrees granted them strict tax exemptions starting in 1642. Because of this protection, Sourp Magar was able to evolve. It wasn't just a quiet little hermit's retreat anymore. It became a vital, bustling spiritual and cultural waypoint for Armenian pilgrims making the long journey from Anatolia and the Levant toward Jerusalem.
Part 3. A modern safe haven and its golden era.
And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer scale of the monastery during its absolute peak. The complex didn't just sit on some small, modest plot of land. It oversaw roughly 8,500 dunams. To put that into perspective, that is thousands of acres stretching all the way down to the sea, filled with an estimated 30,000 olive and carob trees. It was this incredibly thriving, self-sustaining economic and spiritual engine.
During the Ottoman era, people actually called it the Blue Monastery because of its really striking blue wooden doors and shutters. But it was so much more than just a beautiful building. In the 1890s, it literally acted as a safe house for Armenian refugees who were fleeing massacres. Later on, it transformed into a joyful summer camp for scouts and orphans. It was an idyllic retreat where families from Nicosia would escape the brutal summer heat to host picnics and baptisms. And on top of all that, it served as a guardian of knowledge, safely housing invaluable, illuminated medieval manuscripts that dated all the way from 1202 up to 1740.
This is where the human element makes the history so incredibly compelling. Catching a glimpse of the smiling faces of the families, clerics, and children from before 1974. It really drives home that they didn't view Sourp Magar as some dusty, ancient relic. It was a living, breathing sanctuary. It was a hub for education, deep community ties, and just profound joy.
Part 4. Architectural autopsy.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the specific medieval remnants we are looking at. Sourp Magar is considered one of the absolute best preserved examples of late medieval domestic building on the entire island. It's laid out as an irregular rectangle of two-storied residential cells built right into the steep mountain slope. You've got this simple arcade on the bottom and a walkway right above it. The windows feature distinct Gothic shapes, including the chevron design that is a total hallmark of late Gothic Cyprus. And right in the central courtyard, two chapels sit side by side. The largest one was built in 1814, and miraculously, its vaulted roof remains completely intact today.
Part 5. The Sudden Halt.
1974. That is the year everything just stopped. During the conflict in the summer of 1974, the island was divided, and the area where the monastery sits came under military control. Suddenly, forcibly, the monastery was completely abandoned. According to the historical sources, the very last Armenian to remain on the grounds was a 75-year-old field guard named Garabed Tukhtarian. Tragically, he passed away right there just a year later. The contrast between the past and the present is honestly devastating. You have the vast, thriving historical complex of the past right next to the decaying, crumbling chapel that stands today. Following 1974, sources impartially note that the site was utilized for a few different alternate purposes. It was temporarily used as a mess hall for military officers. Later, local administrations actually made multiple attempts to turn this incredibly sacred site into a hotel and casino. Now, those commercial efforts were ultimately halted due to international pressure, but the resulting decades of severe neglect and vandalism have left the site completely stripped and entirely exposed to the elements.
Part 6. The Silent Guardian Today.
So the crucial point is this. Sourp Magar is quite literally on the verge of total collapse. The ancient keystones are cracked, the roofs are caving in, and those beautiful Gothic archways are broken. An international renovation campaign has recently determined that the next 12 to 18 months are absolutely critical. They urgently need to raise 500,000 euros, and that is just for emergency stabilization. Not a full restoration, just basic stabilization to protect the physical structure against the harsh winter rains and the unpredictable seismic jolts in the region.
The campaign's reports deliver a pretty blunt warning. They state, with every winter season, the damage increases and there is high risk of irreversible destruction. This isn't just about trying to save a pile of old stones, right? It's about preserving a 1,000-year-old testament to shared Mediterranean history. It's about saving a place of peace, of refuge, and an irreplaceable multicultural legacy.
So, what does this all mean for the future? We are left with a really profound question. Will this silent guardian of the Pentadaktylos finally be rescued and stabilized so it can stand for another 1,000 years? Or will we simply watch as it succumbs entirely to the forces of nature, vandalism, and time? I really hope this explainer has sparked your curiosity about this endangered, incredible piece of world heritage. Thank you so much for joining me today, and as always, keep questioning the history hidden right in front of us.